Welcome everyone to this episode of Hilantra. Today's guest is a holistic and integrative gut health coach, and she holds a certificate in advanced gut health. After pursuing a career in HR, motherhood was a crossroads for her to start pursuing this road of holistic wellness. She co-authored a book called Corporate Social Performance, Paradoxes, Pitfalls, and Pathways to the Better World. She's also the founder of the Broth Lab, the Roost Rotisserie, and Kacha Matcha, an amazing concept that I fell in love with. And she has won several awards in F&B and also for women in SME. Wow, that's a lot of achievements. I'm really proud of her. I attended a talk by her recently about detoxification, and you could see the passion and the knowledge, and the room was just full of that energy. And I'm very excited to have her here with me. And today's topic is food as medicine for gut health. And I could not have thought of anybody better than Hadil Al-Khatib to join me today in this talk. Welcome, Hadil. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you, Rasha, for this beautiful introduction. My gosh. Thank you. It means so much. Thank you for having me here.
I'm very happy for you to be here. So Hadil, tell me a little bit about yourself and why you chose this path of integrative health coaching. And if you can explain to us as well what integrative health coaching is in simple terms.
Definitely. So I think you nailed it right when you said motherhood came in the way and things are juggled up, things changed, but also very grateful to that phase of my life. So like you said, my name is Hadil Al-Khatib. I'm known on Instagram as Heal with Hadil. I had 13 years experience in corporate. So I was heading the human resources in the energy sector of Abu Dhabi before I decided it was time for me to shift careers as motherhood came in the way and I couldn't do the 8 to 5 or even more. You take your computer back home and you're still working on deadlines and projects. And I was like, this can't continue. In the interim, I had my own healing journey. So I was also diagnosed with an undiagnosed disease postpartum after having my first child. And that also gave me another incentive to calm down and understood what my body was going through. So I was turned away by many doctors in the, conventional medicine or what we call the Western medicine. But I was determined to get better, even on my own, because I was obviously a burden on my family, but also nobody wants to be sick. And because I had children that I had to take care of. So I was determined, very determined of getting better. Even after 3 years of no diagnosis, I enrolled myself at Institute of Integrative Nutrition, which is what you mentioned, functional medicine, integrative medicine. And I started understanding what our body goes through as women, our changes, what it really means to be actually sick and what the symptoms mean. And I finished my 2.5-year course. I did advanced courses with them as well. And I became certified. But it was really unintentional for me to go that route. It just happened, Life gets in the way. Like they say, shit happens sometimes, excuse my French, but shit happens sometimes. And that's the reality of things. And life takes you to places where you're not comfortable with and you're not familiar with. But as long as this is working, your hands are working, as long as you have air in your lungs, you never stop learning, you never stop, being curious and finding solutions. And here I am talking about gut health. You had the talk with me on detoxification as well. Founded several healing and healthy concepts that were awarded, and I'm very grateful for that. But the idea is I just wanted to pass on the ripple effect. I just wanted others to learn what I learned in summary, because who has the time and energy to go through that, long path? And I wanted to share tips of how people, especially women, can improve their health, their gut health, because everything stems from the gut, and also make accessible, long, hard, difficult healing foods available in minutes. Like the Broth Lab, 15 hours simmered bone broth available at your doorstep in minutes, or organic ceremonial matcha all the way in Japan available at your doorstep in minutes, or 48-hour brined, organic chicken that's hormone-free, antibiotic-free, cooked slowly 3 hours, available in minutes, So it's about the accessibility that was after. And obviously the passion drove me into wanting to explore more until I opened more than one concept.
So that is a handful, and you're doing it beautifully. I have yet to try the chicken. I did try Broth Lab, and I tried it many times, and then matcha as well. It was launched recently. It's beautiful. I love the texture. I love the flavor, and I can't wait for it to grow, and I can't wait to see what you're going to do with that. Really, I'm very, very, very excited for you. I'm very happy that I've met you and that I've been introduced to such beautiful concepts. And let's dig in. Let's talk about how these concepts can help people with health. So let's start by integrative health coaching. What does it mean to you when you say integrative health coaching?
So it really stems from the idea that we are all holistic beings. Everything is interlinked. Everything in our body is interrelated. So in the beginning, when I mentioned that doctors were not being able to diagnose me, is because they were not able to pinpoint how everything in my body was related to what I was thinking, how my gut health was related to how my inability to move, my mood, my depression. The doctors were not diagnosing me as a whole. They were compartmenting me into different divisions where, you need to see an ENT for that. You need to see a gastro for that. You need to see a psychiatrist for that. And I kept bombarding myself, knocking on different doors of doctors saying, okay, so I was sent here because I'm having brain fog. But they told me it has nothing to do with the same time that I'm getting the bloat and the pain in my gut. So they told me to go to the gastro, needed a colonoscopy, and he said, I don't have ulcers. So where are the answers? Nobody had answers. They were limited in terms of what they were able to offer me in terms of explanation. And again, we're not trying to diss doctors here. Doctors save lives. They're amazing at what they do, but they're also limited and they haven't progressed in terms of what research is saying nowadays and in terms of merging alternative and traditional medicine. So integrative medicine combines functional medicine, preventative medicine, as well as holistic medicine together. And that's one of the ancient ways of really diagnosing disease and keeping your health at optimum level.
Perfectly said, beautifully said. I couldn't have said it better. Thank you for that. And I agree with you that there is this lack of integration. When we as individuals start understanding our health better, and then we take charge, like you said, and unfortunately, the times when we have to take charge is when we hit rock bottom, right? It's in those moments of hardship, when we see so many doors closed, that's when we start looking for the window that's open, because, like we said the other day, you're fixated on that door and you just keep going and going, but then you don't look for that little light. So once we are pushed to kind of look for ourselves, take charge and take responsibility, because we have responsibility for everything in our life, including our health. So when we take responsibility, we start seeing answers, and it's empowering and it's amazing, because as much as you start looking, the more you start looking, the more you understand, the more you learn, the more you understand yourself as well. I'm very grateful for you for this explanation. It was very nicely put. I want to know from your experience and talking about holistic wellness before we dig in and go into more details. When you tell people holistic wellness or integrative medicine or functional medicine, are people familiar with the term? I'm always very curious to know. Or do you feel like they need more explanation? How many out of 10 would say, what is that?
I would say 9 out of 10 of the people I meet, which is a huge percentage of the people I meet, tell me, what do you mean you're a certified gut health coach? And what do you mean by integrative health coach? Like, what's the difference? Or what do you mean you just specialize in gut? Do you do like surgeries? I was like, no, I just said it's a health coaching. It's a program that makes you understand what's going on in your gut and how to heal it. And then they were like, yeah, so like you're a dietitian. So you talk about food. I was like, no, health coaching is beyond food. And this is such an important element when it comes to integrative health or preventative health, because food is one part of it unlike what is rotated around dietitians and nutritionists, where we call it the secondary food. So we focus on the primary foods. And the primary food are the food that you feed your soul, that you feed your body, but have nothing to do with you chewing it in your mouth. So when you talk about meditation, when you talk about your thoughts, when you talk about hobbies, things that wake you up in the morning, when you talk about that quality time with your loved ones, these are primary foods. Because these are the things that feed your soul, feeds your neurons. It gives you a reason to live. And these are, for me, have more antioxidants than any matcha you could drink, than any blueberries you could
I
have.
agree. I have to agree with you there. I am shocked with your answer. 9 out of 10. I wouldn't have expected that. I would have been like maybe 7, 6, 7, 8 tops. 9 out of 10. Shocking. And, this is primary food for me because it really validates the reason and the intention behind starting Hilantra. And now with more energy and with more intention, I'm really more determined to put this voice out there. I really want people to understand. I really want people to be educated. Google is not enough. We need people. We need to interact. We need people like you who have practiced to explain what it is in your own words, basic, human to human. And we want people who've had experience and who have good testimonials to share their testimonials. Thank you for that. That's primary food for me. Secondary food. What are secondary foods?
So that is as obviously as important. We have to survive, we have to eat, we have to feel nourished in terms of our nutrients and to slow down those hunger cues. But these are secondary food in terms of they should never be the main focus of why we exist. When people tell you, oh my God, this person lives to eat,
Yes.
It's like that's the main focus. Their brain is wired to think, oh, what did I have for breakfast? What am I going to have for lunch? Or they're wired to say, I had such a good, healthy lunch. Why am I still not feeling great? Why am I fatigued or depressed? I eat such a healthy diet, because they assume that their primary source of nourishment is just from food. We're trying to change that perception. We're trying to change the way people look at their plates. There are so many different angles outside the plate. So you have your macros in check, whether it's the healthy oils, the water, whether it's, the healthy complex carbs, the protein, all the fiber, all the antioxidants we talk a lot about, you've got that covered. You have those sticks. I'm not saying that's not important. It is important. But then outside that plate, you've got your career. You've got your sense of belonging, whether it's to a tribe, a culture, a country. You have those hobbies, that extra time, that me time, you've got that financial stability. You've got so many things going around, family connections, friends. If you look beyond the plate, those are the primary foods that you should be also incorporating. What did I do today? Did I go for that 20 minutes walk that I love at sunset? You add it to your plate next to the blueberries, maybe, and then you think, how was my quality time with my child today? Did I manage to squeeze in? And again, they're not chores, but they're just mental checks. When you put your head on the pillow and you're like, you think of how your day went. It's similarly when you're eating, think of all the other things that you're also doing well in, or you're grateful for.
Exactly.
And add them on, because believe me, that increases your digestive enzymes. That increases the way you digest and assimilate food, but also that gives you beyond what you're eating, because you could have the pizza and still feel good if everything around that pizza is still working for you, or you could have that kale salad and it's not going to do you any good if everything around that plate and that analogy is not working for you, So it's
I totally
looking
agree.
beyond that secondary food element where we check and we're just so upset that I ate healthy, so everything else should be working healthily in my body.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I was doing this practice and I don't do it as often, where when I'm sitting, instead of thinking about all the problems that are happening and the things I need to do, there's this practice that I do. I think about how grateful I am for what I have on the plate. So now it's like taking it to the next level and saying all these other things in my life that I'm grateful for. But yeah, I was like trying to focus with the food instead of eating quickly, trying to savor. So I try to practice this as much as possible when I'm conscious about it. But then it's beautiful now that you say it doesn't necessarily have to be limited to what's in your plate and be grateful for the food and savoring, but then you bring in all these other elements to it. And then that wholesomeness in the experience. And I think this is what we need to be practicing in our lives with everything, whether you're in your down, whether in your high, life is like a wave. You're at the top, you're at the bottom. We need to learn how to just maybe enjoy is not necessarily the right word, but then just live that moment wholesomely. I love what you just said. Thank you for that. Let's dig into the technicality of our topic today. So let's talk about the gut. And when the gut is not in balance, how does it manifest physically? For me personally, I get bloating, I get stomach pain, maybe inconsistent bowel movement. What else? What are the indicators for people to understand, oh my God, my gut, there's an issue? How does it manifest physically?
Everything stems from the gut. So if your gut is not at optimal condition, which unfortunately this is becoming more and more the common trend nowadays, then nothing really works in place. 80% of our serotonin and our immunity stems from the gut. And that is a huge deal. This is a big deal. If you say that our immunity and the sense of happiness and achievements come from here, no matter what you're doing externally, to prevent disease or to make yourself feel uplifted, it's not going to work if it's not coming from here. So we speak a lot about certain diseases that we're seeing, like leaky gut, like Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. There's so many diseases that are very chronic. But there are also reversible, and there are also ways in which you can reduce certain symptoms that come with it. But if you want to talk about the generic bloat, the occasional constipation, or the gas or symptoms like, the gut maybe is not digesting or assimilating food well, these are also the beginning, the acute, the start of something that could be, God forbid, long-term or quite severe if not addressed properly. So what I meant to say is that healthy gut is a healthy body. Without really addressing any symptom, whether it's small or big, you're not going to be able to have that whole healthy, radiant, focused brain and body. It really is the start of everything. And personally speaking, maybe that was a decade ago, but when I first started, these symptoms that were always ignored by doctors, they were writing, yeah, maybe you're eating a lot of broccoli or cauliflower, there's that bloat. And yeah, maybe you have a lazy intestine. That's why you don't go daily to the bathroom. Or yeah, it happens, hormones, maybe around your period. So these things are actually ignored, especially around women's health, because it seems to be common. And also when you address, you say, oh, but there's also pain with that. What they would be hearing in their head, oh, she's a woman, her pain tolerance is probably low. Where this would not be ignored if I was a man, let's say, because man's pain tolerance is higher, then they would want to dig deeper and understand what the root cause is. But there are so many things that we tend to address to the doctors, and doctors tend to ignore because they become the common trend. They've become so common and very hard to pinpoint as well, because it's not visible, right? When I tell you I'm fatigued, the last thing you would think is stemming from my gut. If I tell you I can't focus right now, Rasha, I feel like I can't really focus, I'm foggy, the last thing you would think is coming from my gut, right?
True.
And that's what we spoke in the beginning of this podcast. We were saying that the way Western medicine is, it segments, it puts the different body parts in departments. But the gut really is, if you like, the foundation of everything working optimally. Because if you're not digesting food well, absorbing it and assimilating it well, the nutrients are not going to different organs, number one. Number two, if your microbiome, which is the good versus the bad bacteria, is at balance, then your estrobiome, which is your other hormonal balance, would go off whack. So that's number two. So you've got the depletion checked because your gut is not optimum. You've got the hormonal balance that affects the thyroid, that affects your ability to being able to endure any kind of fitness of movement. And then if the gut is not imbalanced, then we have something called the brain-gut axis, which links into the vagus nerve. And then you will never really feel that calmness, and you will always feel anxious because it's your second brain. It's telling you there's something not right. And I love the way biologically our intestines look. It looks really close to how our brain looks, if you think about it. And so you've got that, your nervous system not being in check. And then we have something called the gut-skin axis, where whatever is going wrong with your gut, you're going to see it either through eczema or adult acne, or there's so many different rashes that are coming as a symptom of the gut telling you there's something that's going in here. I want you to check it, and please don't numb it with antacids, antibiotics, and painkillers. Address it, because I'm giving you all these symptoms for you to be notified. And what do? We go to the next quick fix pill to shut down the pain, where what we need to do is actually understand why the pain is coming in from where and how to fix it long term.
That is very interesting. And it's so true. We're so used to this quick fix mentality and, just like behavior to our health, that unfortunately a lot of things start piling up. So it might start with a mild bloating, and that would be like your first red flag or like your first sign. And then something else starts to pile up on top of that, and then it piles up on top of that. And like you said, unfortunately, for some people, it becomes a chronic condition. And then now the treatment becomes, it will take you longer. It doesn't mean that you can't fix it, but it will take you longer. And then you will need different layers of healing, and different people may be coming into the picture to help you and to support you. So this brings me to another question. So do you have clients that come to you from like the beginning of the symptoms, or is it like in the middle of the journey when the symptoms are piled up, or is it when it's like already developed into a chronic condition?
The majority of my clients come from when the doctors have failed them, generally. Not all doctors, of course. We're talking about those doctors with limited beliefs that things have to be departmental and that has nothing to do with their symptoms. And many of these clients come and they're just frustrated. They're just done with knocking back doors and taking appointments and consultations with people who don't really regard their symptoms seriously. So the majority of them are those who have lost hope and want a proper protocol to help heal their gut for a long-lived, symptom-free life that we all deserve. And then you've got those people who are aware already of the current medical system and truly believe on, primary, secondary lifestyle changes. And they come to me and they're like, okay, so I know what you do, maybe not in full, but I know that the recovery is permanent and I want to start now. And this is where it depends on where they are in that phase. If I put them on a 1 month, 3 months, or 6 months, or sometimes longer protocol where they can take ownership of their life and their health. Absolutely. You know what to do when you're not feeling your best the next time you're not feeling great. You know what to reach out to. You know what to incorporate. You know what you need to do in terms of movement, supplements. Just empowering others to really take full authority and agency on their health. And again, this resembles so much because that was part of my own transition. I took health in my own hand. I was like, you know what? If nobody's going to help me, I'm going to do that myself, because there is nothing more important than health. And if I can't achieve it on my own, then nobody can really give it to me, because at the end of the day, you sit for a few minutes, tops an hour with a doctor, if they allow you, and then you're gone. all on your own. That's your journey now. The doctor has told you his 2 cents. He gave you what you need to do, but who's really in full command of taking ownership and following through? It's really us, you know?
Absolutely. The doctor will ask you after 2 weeks to come back, or after a month to come back and see how you're doing. But then you don't really see the journey and what happened in between, and how was your mood in between when you started taking the medication, and what happened. And did you sleep better, or did you sleep worse? Or how was your bowel movement? How were the minor changes that were happening to you in that journey? We don't unfortunately address them unless we are aware of it ourselves, or we're working with mindful practitioners that look at the patient in a holistic way, like for example now, in this case, a health coach. So tell me something, Hadil. If a client comes to you, when do you actually recommend different kinds of tests? I'm sure there are times when you would be able to diagnose and then do a protocol on your own, but then in which cases do you actually send the client to do tests, and which kind of tests do you recommend?
So there are a few unconventional testing that are not so known here on the market that I would recommend, but I would take all the history tests that were done. I will take everything from historic data of what medications that client was put on in terms of the current symptoms, what supplements they are on. I would just want to gather as much data as I want before I would recommend anything, because I wouldn't want to repeat the same test. And also some tests are valid for 6 months or a year, and they can still do without retesting. But unfortunately, like I said, the majority of my patients come from doctors that have already done multiple testing and still didn't give them that satisfaction that their health is back on track, or that they've done so many testings that were truly irrelevant and they still weren't able to pinpoint what it was that was wrong with their gut or their body or through their symptoms. And that was my case as well. So unconventional testing, I would always say, do a complete blood work that incorporate mineral testing. And mineral testings are not done from blood work. They're done through taking a sample of your hair and seeing what minerals you're depleted on. And I can guarantee you that the majority of the people who do it have at least 2 or 3 minerals that they're lacking. So that would be a comprehensive mineral testing along with complete blood work. That's the standard. And then you have consolidated stool analysis test, which we call CDSA, and multiple clinics here in the UAE do it. Now, luckily, 10 years ago when I was after it, maybe one clinic did it and they had to ship it all the way to Germany, and I had to wait months before I could get the answer.
Wow.
Things are progressing now. We're grateful for that, as functional medicine and preventative medicine are now becoming more accessible to many people. So I send my patients there where they can actually seek such tests. A full comprehensive hormonal test is really something that all of us, men and women, should do annually. Just to make sure that everything is in check and there's nothing off back, because there are so many disruptions from our food system, from the way, our lifestyle, different small, not great habits that we incorporate, like going somewhere and drinking something off a plastic bottle, or just, the day-to-day makeup that is not clean or sourced ethically and is not heavy metal tested. At the Kacha Matcha launch, I talk about how important it was for me to go myself to Japan and source from a matcha that is organic small, but heavy metal certified, checked. The tests that were done were heavy metal tested and certified, that they are clear from all these things, because we are all overloaded with heavy metals because of different life habits that we're going through, and also because our food system is truly rubbish nowadays. So point is, there are a number of testings that are actually not in terms just of what they tell you, but also hand in hand going through that holistic element of understanding what it is affecting beyond that area. So you'll do it through tests, and it will also tell you what is going on with your microbiome. It will tell you what is going on in terms of your energy, the way you digest foods, your enzymes. So it gives you a comprehensive analysis of what is really going on there. So I highly recommend that as well.
That is very good. I really, really do hope that people become more aware through being educated about what these tests are good for, how to get them, and then hopefully they become more accessible and more affordable for the masses, because unfortunately there's that price aspect always that people would consider, like, how much is this and how much would it cost me, and is it covered by insurance? In the UAE we have really amazing when it comes to holistic wellness. I heard firsthand from doctors that this country in the Middle East has the most progressive in terms of accessibility, in terms of bringing doctors, in terms of having insurance coverage for certain practices than many other countries in the Middle East. I mean, talking about this area where we are. My next question, because you touched up on it, and that's always something that I like to think about, and I'm clean when it comes to food in my own regimen of food intake. We live in the UAE. We have access to so many different foods because we get everything from everywhere. If I wanted to live a simplistic lifestyle when it comes to the food intake, living here in the UAE, what would you recommend? What I know from other countries is people would say, go local organic. Now, we have a few options now that are local and organic, but then there are very few still. Is that enough? What would you recommend?
That's such an excellent question, because we are here. We can't ignore the fact that we are not getting everything farm fresh behind our yard or from the farm next door. Unlike other countries, that most of their food system is actually derived from their own soils. We go to the supermarkets and the avocado is half ripe, all the way shipped by air, then put in the fridge, eaten half by mold. And then we say, oh, here's the avocado. It's 350% of your daily folate intake. You're not getting 5%, right? Because of how it was shipped, and it wasn't even ripened on the tree. And then it's on the supermarket shelves, eaten by mold. So it's actually doing probably more harm than good when you're not at optimum shape. Point is, are we going to stop eating avocados? No, we're not going to stop eating avocados. But there are certain alternatives when it comes to what is available here in this market. So we can talk about mangoes, we can talk about cucumbers, tomatoes, chilies, bell peppers. There are a few farms that are over here that you can even source many more besides the typical dates and carrots, etc. So what I'm trying to say is you don't need to go all organic. There are the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15 that are every year updated and provided for us to understand what things we can still eat organic or non-organic and still not consume all these toxic overload of pesticides. So the idea is to seek what are locally produced here and replace them. So you don't need, honestly, the bell peppers from Spain. And that's the majority of what we find in the supermarket. There are bell peppers here that also are not required to be organic. So they're still in the Clean 15 that are locally sourced and quarter, a fraction of the price. And then you know consciously that you're able to afford to buy more bell peppers and group that boost of vitamin C in your daily intake. So that's a way to look at it when we talk about local. But there are certain things that you cannot ignore. Poultry, meats, and when it comes to fish. And when I look at the local market, we have abundance of wild fish here. So maybe we need to have the tendency to eat more fish if we can't source grass-fed beef or lamb, because the cattle here is not in abundance or not affordable or not accessible. You know, there are here cattle farms, but you can't access them. You have to literally go and buy the goats yourself, like we do at Eid ceremonies, and actually slaughter it to be able to get that. And not a lot of people go to the traditional way of getting their meats, of course. You want to typically go to the butcher shop and find these, their majority from Australia, New Zealand, the ones that are grass finished or grass fed or hormone free and antibiotic free. And the reason why I launched the Nutriticity is because I wanted to eat chicken out and I couldn't find a place that locally sources chicken that is hormone free and antibiotic free. I don't care about the terms organic if it was organic from Brazil or from Europe and it's certified organic, but they still allow the growth hormone. because that's the organic certifications in Europe. Versus here, the organic certifications are much rigid and strict in the UAE, where you have to, the Food Control Authority says you have to have the certification that no hormones has been added, no antibiotics have been added, that it is fresh, that it is slaughtered in a certain halal way. There are so much in terms of what protocol are for before you are even certified organic. So knowing that it's locally sourced with such rigid, procedures give me some sort of content and relief that what I'm eating is actually much better than what it was coming here frozen as well, not knowing what happened there and what terms of protocols they follow to get me that certification. So chicken, and we're seeing a lot of kids nowadays, a lot of preteens getting their periods early, and all of that antibiotics and hormones being injected in the majority of our food, which mainly revolves around chicken, if you think about it. The majority of the meal plans that you see, or the way people eat, they eat more chicken than any other source of meat. And that's a huge issue, because that high demand of chicken, with it being injected with all these hormones and antibiotics, are causing ill effects. So looking for local alternatives, looking for those stamps on the chicken saying hormone free and antibiotic free, locally sourced, fresh, never frozen, are really ideal of when you look at animal products. Eggs are another big thing. They're derived from the chicken. So eggs have to apply the same thing, So we're also seeing a lot of vegans and plant-based who are having a lot of issues as well, because of the pesticide load, because of the oats that they're sourcing are not really, they still have the Roundup pesticide. We're looking at a lot of the fruits and vegetables still, even though they're in the clean 15, still having a lot of toxic overload, heavy metals from the way the irrigation system in the soils are. So even those that say, oh, but I'm vegan, I'm plant-based, I don't eat all of that, they're still having a lot of other health issues as well, and depletion. That's a really long topic to address, Rasha. But the main thing is that we acknowledge that our soils are depleted. We acknowledge that we are not getting the same daily percentage of nutrients check when we look at labels. We understand that. But what do we have to do? We still have to be conscious of that, incorporate more healing foods, incorporate more nourishing foods as much as we can throughout the day, and just eating in moderation, having that 80-20 that we always talk about. That goes a long way when it comes to sourcing different products here in the UAE.
Thank you for that, Hadil. And one final question. I want to know about supplements. What are the top 3 supplements that you recommend to your clients? We hear a lot about multivitamins and different kind of vitamin compositions, and everybody sort of starts to try different things at different times without going through any experts. So they heard that somebody tried, I don't know, collagen also, like collagen pills or collagen in sachets, and then they start trying it out. But and I really don't think that's the healthiest way. So what are the top 3 supplements that you would say most people need, especially living in this region, that you would recommend?
This is my multivitamin. This is my multivitamin. Why? Because your body recognizes it as food, and all the different amino acids, protein, all the different collagen, the minerals that we talked about are all in its natural form for your body to recognize it, absorb it, assimilate it, and take it to the right places. Anything in its concentrated chemical synthetic way, your body is smart enough to repel it, take a little bit of it if you're really depleted, and then you're basically urinating very expensive supplements. My point is that there has been so much emphasis on the supplement form that we have steered away from God's free, natural way of medicating us and nourishing us and giving us all what we really need. The next time somebody tells you we all need vitamin C, of course we all need vitamin C, but you take vitamin C in its chemical form versus the kiwi that God has intended for us to eat, with fiber, with sucrose, with the exact levels for that vitamin C to be 100% absorbed in the body, versus that 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C that my body is going to take 1,500 from, and then I'm going to go, and when I flush the bath, I'm going to go, oh, wow, that's phosphoric. That phosphoric color was the vitamin C that you took, that your body was not being able to digest and assimilate because it's in the chemical synthetic form, and the body is smart. My point is that let's go back to food as medicine. Let's go back to understanding what are the different natural components, phytochemicals, polyphenols, different amino acids, different macros in our food that we eat on a daily basis. And let's be wary of all the different healthy fats that we can incorporate as well. Next time somebody tells you you need vitamin E supplement because your skin is dry, tell her I take extra olive virgin oil from Syria or Lebanon or Palestine, and that is my vitamin E. Next time somebody tells you take some collagen because it reduces fine line, tell her I drink the homemade, or if you can't make it homemade, then other clean sources like the broth lab. I take my bone broth every single day, and that's my proper source of collagen. Next time somebody says, oh, you know what, you're really depleted in magnesium. Probably magnesium would be something that I would always recommend, but even so, here are the cues. There are dark chocolate, magnesium in dark chocolate. There's zinc in oysters. There's so many bioavailable minerals and vitamins that are in our food that we tend to ignore. Just one health coach session with me, and I empower people to go to the supermarket and being able to look at the different colors and what it means. That 1 hour session gives you things that you can apply for a lifetime without having to look behind certain medications and supplements and say, but that has gluten, that has sugar. You don't need that. Food is medicine. Food as medicine is what we're talking about today. So I hope we can just get more knowledge on that aspect and apply it on our daily lives.
Absolutely. In the age of information, ignorance is a choice. Everything is out there. So much information is out there. Access to people like yourself is there. And that's what we're hoping to achieve here. Thank you so much for these insights, Hadil. There's so many more questions that I could ask you, but I want to honor the time, and I want to honor your time as well. I'm very grateful for you to give me your time and to give me your insights, and for your energy as always. I love it, and I'm very grateful for it. And I would love for us to do this again. Any final words?
I would love to go again with you, Rasha, because this was fun. And I hope I didn't overwhelm you with so much information. There's so much to cover yet. But yes, it was truly a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being with me, Hadil. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. We hope you found it insightful and you enjoyed it as much as we did creating it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Let's continue creating this amazing community of holistic wellness seekers and practitioners together. See you in the next one.